Leaving the US before 2027. I'm joined here by an immigrant who obtained US citizenship and he decided to leave the US in 2025. And we want to hear your story today, Alfonce. What happened exactly and why you think America is not the safe bet that you thought it was going to be. Thank you so much for coming. You became a naturalized citizen in the US. Why do you have the need to leave the country now?
Yeah, so the cost of living, I think, has become very difficult to maintain. I think that, also the just quality of life has gone down since I've been living in the US. And I've just kind of had other experiences in other places where it's made me question, what I was doing or what I am doing in the US, right? So I think you really realize that once you leave, right? Once you be brave enough to say, okay, I'm going to step outside of my comfort zone, that's when you truly see things that are unseen. And I talk about it with my friends and I'm like, every time I go back to the US, visit family or something like that, you cannot unsee what you've seen, right? So once you've seen something and it's good, it is extremely difficult for you to get that out of your mind again. So if I've gone to other places and had good experiences, when I do return to the US, it just doesn't feel the same anymore. So really those are some of the things that I've noticed, that been traveling, staying in other countries for a little bit, whether I'm on a tourist visa or for however long I'm staying. And when I do return to the US, it's just never been the same.
So when you say the quality of life, especially the cost of living, are the biggest reasons why you ended up leaving, what exactly do you mean by that? Like, what are the major challenges with the quality of life in the US?
I think it's the culture. I think in the US, you have a hustle culture. You have a culture where, and I don't say that a hustle culture is bad, but it's like everyone I speak to or network with, they're always trying to talk about how they're trying to advance themselves all the time, looking for new opportunities, looking for new business opportunities. And after living there for quite a while, I feel like that after a while, it does get tiring to always be hustling, always trying to, improve yourself, look for the next job, look for the next salary. After a while, you kind of miss the other things, about being a human being, right? And I think that hustle culture, I've been there enough to see that I just don't want to continue to keep doing that for the rest of my life. I would rather just enjoy the other aspects of life, after I have done all the hustle culture and all that. I think also because of the speed or the pace of life in the US, everything feels a little bit rushed. It's hard to have a genuine connection with people because you might see them, but you're not seeing them for overly extended periods of time. I think that also has an impact because if you're not able to spend, let's say in a week, maybe 2 or 3 days with people and have enough time with them, how do you really, in my case, how do you build that brotherhood? That's just an example. So I just feel like the hustle culture, and I feel like the quality of time there, everything feels rushed. Whether you're going to work, you're even going to meet people. People have so many other commitments, or it feels like other people have a lot of commitments. Whereas when I'm in places like here in my home country, every week I was in Kenya, for example, able to just contact my friends. Hey, what are you doing this week? When's a good time to meet up? And we'll meet up maybe 2 or 3 times within a week. So just those aspects, I think, are the reasons why the States doesn't feel the same anymore.
Cost of living and quality of life are the biggest reasons why you ended up leaving. And it's not the taxes that you ended up paying to the US government. You wouldn't leave the US for taxes ever, would you?
Everyone's situation is different. So I think for me, it's not necessarily that. I think it's more so the quality of life. I'd say even like we discussed, the dating aspect is also important. I feel like it's more natural, free-flowing in other places. That's another aspect as well. So I wouldn't necessarily say the tax is the main thing, but everyone's situation is different.
Now, for everyone watching this video who has the aspiration to immigrate to America because they believe it's the land of opportunity, do you think it's a sensible decision to immigrate to America in 2025, or do you think the American dream is no longer possible?
Like you said, that American dream, I think it was once a thing. I think it was once a thing. I think now it is still attainable, but it's just going to take a lot more. It'll just take a lot more than what it once was. So if you were coming in, like when my parents came, like in the 1980s, yes, I do think that around those years or that period, it was definitely attainable. prices didn't skyrocket. The debt ceiling did not, or it's not as much as is now. Cost of living, things have changed business wise. There's a lot more companies that are advanced, that are requiring a lot more staff to have special skills. So like, those simple customer service roles or, support roles, you kind of see those filtering out, because now especially with the AI advancement, I feel like even those types of job opportunities are going to go away. I'll give you an example. When I first came to the US, I would go to the grocery store, and at the checkout aisle, there would always be someone, right? There'd always be someone. Now in 2025, when I go to the store, there's one checkout aisle with one person. The rest of them are automated. So all those jobs have gone. So I think if you're in the US, yes, the American dream is possible, but you need to have a specific skill set, and it's just going to take a lot more, for you financially to get that dream.
Something that we talked about privately is how you can take that not so important skill set in the US, perhaps, something that's gotten very saturated in the US. Or like you said, if the skill set got replaced by artificial intelligence, by technology, you can export that skill set of yours into a country, say like Paraguay, even into Kenya, and get 3 to 5 times the output, probably because there's less competition and your skill set is just in high demand. And these emerging countries, they need your skill set to thrive and to develop further. Let's talk about one of the most unfulfilled desires that people have, homeownership, and how it has become a distant dream for a middle-class family living in the US, and not just in the US. This is a worldwide phenomenon that's taking place where citizens and residents are priced out of the real estate market. Construction costs have gone up, but more importantly, there's less supply and more demand for real estate. And that's really killing the lives of the average person. Is home ownership one of the reasons why you left America?
I would say it is a factor, not like a primary reason. But for example, the price of real estate, single family homes, even just apartments, depending on where you're trying to get it, it's very difficult to attain, especially when you're tied to these mortgages for 30 years. It kind of feels like now, if you do get a property in the United States, you're essentially signing yourself to be there for the rest of your life. With the value of these houses and the interest rates, especially at the rates that they are, like as high as they are, I'm not seeing the true benefit of actually, obtaining a house or a property in the United States if it's not something that's income generating. If it's income generating, I can see a benefit in it. But if it's something like a single family where you're just trying to live, it is, at this point, people are priced out. So I would say, I don't tell people not to buy, but I would say if you can't afford it, again, inflation, salaries haven't really kept up with inflation, right? So you need to be, very careful if you're doing that, because you could essentially sign up for a 30-year mortgage on a place that you might not necessarily even call your dream home. So that's how I see what the real estate market looks like right now in the US.
So you would say home ownership has become a distant dream, and especially for a middle-class family, if we're talking about spending 30, 40 years of your life just to pay back your mortgage, I think that's a heavy weight to carry on your shoulders, correct? Now, we also privately talked about home ownership in emerging countries like Kenya or here in Paraguay, how you can buy property for as little as $500 a square meter. And for instance, like buying here, you can buy in a prime neighborhood for $1,000. Whereas in Europe's cities, you would have to pay 5 to 8 times that for something decent. Like construction costs have gone up tremendously. What would you say to someone thinking of staying in the US no matter what? Like, why should they consider relocating to a foreign country? Home ownership is a big reason. The cost of living is another big reason. The lack of highly skilled jobs, because there's just so much competition for just one position. We talked about the option that's on the table where you can use your skill set, import it to another country and get a lot more out of your efforts than in the US, and potentially even qualify for little to no taxes, especially here in Paraguay. What would you say to someone that's unwilling to budge?
I mean, I would just encourage them firstly to get out of their comfort zone. I think if you do that, you then see things that you might not necessarily think were possible. So you need to first get out of your comfort zone, especially if you have skills that you can take to other places and you can utilize them in different economies to help that economy flourish. If if the person is not really looking to leave the US, I would still encourage them and say, okay, you might not want to leave the actual country, but you can go to a different area of the country to see if you can network with different types of people. Maybe there's different opportunities in other areas, maybe cheaper areas. If you go to the middle of the country, for example, the Colorados and those middle states. But again, it really just depends on the person. I think the US is good if you do have the ability to afford it. If you do not have the ability to afford it, I think that you should venture to other places. And I think that's the trend that I've seen in other expats, digital nomads, that they are seeking a better quality of life. They are seeking a lifestyle that allows them to be able to work their jobs or make their online income, but still, enjoy the beauty of life, those little things that you just don't appreciate when you're in America. So that's what I would say. If someone is hell bent on staying, I don't think I would repeat it so many times to them. I would show them what my life is like, what other people's lifestyles like, and then they can make that decision for themselves.
Some people argue that leaving America is the new American dream. Using your location independent income to build a new life abroad is a lot more sensible than trying to make it in the US. Now, what are some of the places that you would recommend for Americans to consider? Places that are very conducive to low taxes, and most importantly, a higher quality of life, and where property ownership is actually possible.
Yeah, I would say that myself, I always look for places that work for a specific time zone. So I think time zone is important. If you want to stay in touch with family, if you have clients that you're working with, you need to be in a time zone that's very flexible, and you still have the availability to be in touch with those people if you need to. If that's not the case, I think Africa and Asia are good options. I would also say that if you're looking for places where your foreign or overseas income can stretch further, you want to be in countries like Paraguay, where you get a tax benefit depending on where you're coming from. If you're European, you probably get benefits here. I've also realized or noticed that other people who are choosing to leave Western societies or Western countries are looking for better dating options. I think among men, I can only speak for men, right? So yeah, I think among men, people are looking for a better social life and a better dating life, I think. So I think that's another aspect or another element that plays a factor in people wanting to leave. Just social life in general, but also their options to, date a lot more feminine women, a lot more caring and considerate, people, or someone that they can relate to more. I've also noticed that other people are also just departing the Western societies or the US because they want to challenge themselves in a different way. They want to learn a new language. They want to integrate themselves into a new culture and see if they can fit in. So all these different elements or aspects, I think, are important. And I think, again, everybody's different. You're different from me. So you have your reasons. I have my reasons. And I think once you identify what your reason is, you can then figure out which place fits you the best. There's Latin American countries, there's African countries, there's countries in the Middle East. So I think it's really just dependent on what are you looking for? Are you looking for great food, a good culture, dating options? Are you looking for a time zone that would allow you to still, work or make money with clients that you work in the same time zone as? So I think all those elements are important in people's decision making to be an expat or digital nomad.
You articulated this very well. Thank you so much. I think leaving America is the new American dream, to find more freedom and prosperity abroad. If you guys are interested in leaving the US before 2027, are looking for a plan B, or are looking to relocate to a country located in Latin America, or Europe, please book a consultation with Nomad Elite today. Go to nomadelite.com and click on book a consultation. Thank you so much for watching. We appreciate your attendance, and we look forward to welcoming you to the next video.